Right now, they'll want to welcome to the show Congressman Blake Farenthold from Texas and a member of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, thank you for coming back on the program this evening.
Yeah, it's been such a long time.
I know. I almost feel like you're our honorary co-host as often as you're on the show. Today, really a huge day in terms of Operation Fast and Furious. I know that you and other members of the House Oversight Committee were still hoping that you'd get documents instead of executive privilege. But instead, Eric Holder and the president now say you're not entitled to any of the documents that have been subpoenaed. They are invoking executive privilege, and you and your colleagues, 22 of your colleagues anyway, voted to hold Eric Holder in contempt of Congress or to bring that contempt charge to the full House today. Can you kind of just sum up your thoughts about everything that happened since this morning?
Well, I was stunned at the claim of executive privilege. Certainly, there's no way that executive privilege covers all of those thousands of documents that they've refused to turn over. And quite frankly, they waited so long to assert this, it's setting off some alarms in my mind. I've definitely got a problem with that. But what's really almost more concerning to me is how the Democrats, who promised the Terry family that they would get to the bottom of this, and who shared the outrage we on the Republican side had in the first few hearings on this, are circling the wagons to protect their attorney general. They're talking about, well, let's wait. Their story is we're do-nothing Congress, but apparently when we want to do something that they don't like, there's a problem.
Yeah, apparently so. Now, I want to ask you, Congressman, some of the arguments we're seeing from the other side here. I'm looking at Jonathan Alter, for instance, a columnist for Bloomberg View and an analyst on MSNBC, and he wonders, quote, why was there not Fast and Furious and death of Agent Worth probing, he says, but why not a single witness from when program began under Bush? Were origins irrelevant? We are hearing this from everybody from Jonathan Alter now to Sheila Jackson Lee. Fast and Furious began under President Bush.
And we've talked about that. We've investigated. The former head of ATF testified for 2 days in front of the committee staff. The Democrats were offered the opportunity to be there. There are hundreds of pages, and it's a deposition-style questioning that are there for their review.
All right, so in other words, you have heard from the former head of the ATF. What about this? And again, we heard it from your colleague, Representative Jerry Connolly today. So, if we were really looking for answers here, we'd be talking about Operation Wide Receiver. We'd be getting to the bottom of this.
Trey Gowdy really had a great comment when he was speaking today. He said, when I was about 8 years old, everybody else do it excuse went out the door. You heard it from your mother. Well, if everybody were going to go jump off a bridge, would you do it too? It's that everybody's doing the excuse doesn't work.
Right.
And again, two wrongs make a right. Any child knows that. We're willing to look at that, but right now they've turned over a gazillion documents. Most of the documents they've turned over actually are about Operation Gunrunner. There's a lack of information about Fast and Furious. While they're claiming privilege for Holder's deliberations and what's going on in the current Justice Department, they have no problem, the Justice Department, turning over documents related to Operation Gunrunner.
So, in other words, while the Attorney General has said that this is an election year distraction, you believe that the Justice Department and perhaps supporters in Congress have used Wide Receiver as a distraction to avoid talking about Operation Fast and Furious?
As well, but here's what gets me about it. It's an election year distraction. We've been investigating Fast and Furious for 14 months. These subpoenas were issued 7 months ago. If we were trying to maximize this for election year impact, or we had it was entirely politically motivated, we'd be waiting until October to do this. We're trying to get to the bottom of it in an expeditious manner. And the Justice Department could have ended it months ago, and they can end it tomorrow by turning over the documents.
Talking with Congressman Blake Farenthold, Republican from Texas, member of the House Oversight Committee. And again, I guess they could still turn over the documents between now and the full House vote, which it appears to be coming up next week.
That's the plan last I heard.
You know, what would you tell your colleagues on the other side of the aisle? I know that the vote today was along party lines, and I don't think that this should be a partisan issue. I don't think this is a Republican versus a Democrat issue, or a left versus right issue, or a gun owner versus gun control advocate issue. What would you tell the folks who seem to believe that this is just, partisanship at work as to why they should care about Operation Fast and Furious?
Well, when I spoke today at the markup, my comment was, remember the promise we made to the Terry family to get to the bottom of this. Remember how upset and indignant you were when you first found out about Operation Fast and Furious. What has changed since then and now? Nothing. We've gotten closer to an election. And the stonewalling and dodging, I think, may be politically motivated on the other side.
Look, I hate to say it, but I think you may be right, Congressman. I certainly think that decisions are being made with an eye towards November and an eye towards the election, and I can't help but wonder if the decision was made to deal with the political fallout of claiming executive privilege because that was viewed as the preferable option instead of having to deal with the political fallout over what's contained within these documents that they don't want to show us.
You can't assume that there's anything in the documents. My law school training tells me that. But the political damage done by claiming executive privilege certainly makes you think, wow, what's in there they want to hide?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And, and my training as a lawyer says, in the court of law, you got to be careful what you assume. You can't assume somebody's got something to hide just because they plead the fifth. But, common sense dictates otherwise.
Absolutely. Do you expect that we will see some of your Democrat colleagues join you in voting for contempt of the Attorney General next week?
I hope so. There were 30 that signed a letter asking for more cooperation on Fast and Furious, but they've got a really good whip operation on the Democrat side, and if you don't go along with what their leadership wants you to do, there's a price to pay. That's one of the things we're blessed at as a Republican. There are a lot of people who complain about John Boehner being wishy-washy, but he gives us the freedom to vote our conscience, and it makes me very happy to be a member of the Republican conference when I can go against leadership and do what's right when I think it's the thing to do without fear of serious repercussions.
Well, Congressman, we really appreciate you coming on the program tonight, sir, and hope we can have you on again next week after that vote.
I'll be happy to talk to you.